The first humans who arrived in Iceland must have thought they had reached the edge of reality. Imagine sailing for days across the cold, unpredictable North Atlantic. No GPS, no weather forecasts, no certainty that land even existed ahead. Then, through the fog, a dark coastline emerges. Mountains rise from the sea like broken teeth. Steam drifts into the sky from seemingly nowhere. The ground hisses, the earth shakes, fire erupts from beneath, ice. And during winter, darkness swallows much of the day, while strange green lights dance across the night sky. Even today, after centuries of scientific discovery, Iceland still feels less like a country and more like a place where nature is experimenting, a place where the rules seem slightly different, a place that often feels like another planet. And perhaps the strangest part is that this otherworldly island is very real. Located in the North Atlantic Ocean, between North America and Europe, Iceland is home to fewer than 400,000 people. Its landmass is roughly the size of Kentucky. Yet, despite its relatively small population, Iceland occupies an outsized place in the human imagination. Filmmakers use it to represent alien worlds. Scientists study it to understand planetary geology. Travelers describe it as the closest thing on Earth to visiting another planet without leaving the atmosphere. But why? What is it about Iceland that feels so different? The answer begins deep beneath our feet. Most countries sit comfortably on a single tectonic plate. Iceland does not. Iceland sits directly on the boundary between the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates. These massive slabs of Earth's crust are slowly pulling apart, very slowly, about as fast as your fingernails grow. Normally, this process happens beneath the ocean, but in Iceland, the tectonic boundary rises above sea level. The result is extraordinary. The island is literally being pulled apart. Every year, every day, every second. Visitors can stand in places where the Earth's crust is separating beneath them. It sounds like science fiction, but it's geology. This geological tension has shaped nearly everything about Iceland. The island is one of the most volcanically active places on Earth. There are approximately 130 volcanoes across the country. Around 30 are considered active. For Icelanders, volcanoes are not distant curiosities. They are neighbors. In 2010, much of the world suddenly became familiar with one Icelandic volcano, or at least became familiar with trying to pronounce its name. Eyjafjallajökull erupted, sending a massive ash cloud into the atmosphere. Air travel across Europe was disrupted on an unprecedented scale. Thousands of flights were canceled. Millions of passengers were affected. A remote volcano on a sparsely populated island managed to disrupt transportation across an entire continent. It was a reminder that Iceland's geological power extends far beyond its shores. Yet, Eyjafjallajökull was hardly the most dramatic eruption in Icelandic history. For that, we have to travel back to 1783. A volcanic fissure known as Laki erupted. The eruption lasted for months. Vast quantities of lava poured across the landscape, poisonous gases spread through the atmosphere. Livestock died, crops failed, famine followed. Historians estimate that roughly a quarter of Iceland's population perished. The effects may have extended beyond Iceland itself. Some researchers believe the eruption influenced weather patterns across Europe and contributed to agricultural hardships elsewhere. One volcanic event on a remote island may have altered the lives of people hundreds or even thousands of miles away. This is the scale at which Iceland operates. Everything feels larger, more powerful, more primal. And nowhere is that more apparent than in Iceland's remarkable relationship with ice and fire. In most places, glaciers and volcanoes live separate lives. In Iceland, they often occupy the same neighborhood. Some volcanoes lie hidden beneath enormous glaciers. When they erupt, the results can be spectacular. The intense heat rapidly melts vast amounts of ice. That meltwater rushes downstream in catastrophic floods known as Jökulhlaup. The floods can arrive with astonishing force, carrying icebergs, boulders, and debris across the landscape. It's one of the few places on Earth where a volcano can trigger a flood from beneath a glacier. Even the vocabulary sounds unusual, because Iceland itself is unusual. The island contains some of Europe's largest glaciers. At the same time, it possesses geothermal systems powerful enough to heat much of the country. Hot springs bubble from the ground. Steam rises from hillsides. Pools of naturally heated water appear in seemingly impossible locations. In many countries, hot water requires fuel. In Iceland, the earth often provides it directly. The abundance of geothermal energy has helped shape modern Icelandic life. Many homes are heated using geothermal systems. Greenhouses flourish despite the northern climate. Fresh vegetables grow where logic suggests they shouldn't. It's another example of Iceland turning apparent disadvantages into opportunities. But Iceland's strangeness isn't limited to geology. Its geography contributes to the illusion as well. Large portions of the country feel almost untouched. Black sand beaches stretch along the coast. Massive lava fields cover entire regions. Waterfalls plunge from towering cliffs. Glacial lagoons fill with floating icebergs. There are places where you can drive for long stretches without seeing another person. In a world increasingly crowded and connected, that kind of solitude feels rare and perhaps slightly unsettling, because Iceland doesn't just look different, it often feels different. Many travelers describe a sense of perspective there. Human concerns seem smaller. The landscape feels older, more patient, more powerful. A reminder that nature existed long before us and will likely exist long after us. This feeling has influenced Icelandic culture for centuries. The earliest permanent settlers arrived during the late 9th century. Most were Norse explorers, farmers, and families seeking new opportunities. Among them were people willing to leave everything familiar behind and settle at the edge of the known world. Life was not easy. Winters were harsh. Resources were limited. Isolation was constant. Success required resilience, and perhaps a certain amount of stubbornness. Fortunately, Icelanders became experts at both. One of the most fascinating aspects of Iceland's history is how much of it survives in written form. The Icelandic sagas preserve stories from the Viking Age with remarkable detail. Part history, part literature, part legend. These accounts describe voyages, feuds, adventures, and family rivalries. Some stories are dramatic, others are surprisingly humorous. Many provide a glimpse into the mindset of people living in one of the world's most challenging environments. The sagas also contributed to another aspect of Iceland's identity: storytelling. Iceland has long been known as a nation of readers and writers. Books occupy a special place in Icelandic culture. In fact, there is a tradition known as the Christmas book flood. Each year, publishers release large numbers of books before Christmas. Many Icelanders exchange books as gifts and spend part of the holiday season reading. It may be one of the most Icelandic traditions imaginable. Cold weather, long nights, and good stories. Yet, for all its literary sophistication, Iceland has never entirely abandoned its folklore. In many parts of the world, legends gradually fade. In Iceland, they remain surprisingly resilient. Ask enough locals about elves, hidden people, or mysterious beings, and you'll discover something interesting. Not everyone believes these stories literally, but many people treat them with a curious respect. Road projects have occasionally been modified because of locations associated with folklore. Certain rocks and landscapes maintain legendary reputations. The story remained part of the cultural fabric, and perhaps that makes sense. When you live in a landscape that already feels magical, magical stories seem less out of place. Imagine standing in a lava field covered in mist. A mountain rises in the distance. Steam drifts from the ground. The northern lights ripple overhead. At that moment, elves don't sound entirely impossible. Then there are the northern lights themselves. Few natural phenomena inspire wonder quite like the aurora borealis. Charged particles from the sun collide with Earth's atmosphere. The result is a display of shifting colors dancing across the sky. Scientists understand the mechanics, yet understanding does little to diminish the experience. Because knowledge and wonder are not opposites. Sometimes they coexist, and Iceland excels at creating moments where science and wonder meet. The same can be said of its wildlife. Puffins gather along dramatic cliffs, whales migrate through surrounding waters, Arctic foxes roam remote regions, bird colonies occupy coastal landscapes in astonishing numbers. Nature remains a constant presence, not an attraction separated from daily life, but an active participant in it. Perhaps that is one reason Iceland attracts so many visitors. Tourists aren't simply looking at scenery, they're experiencing a different relationship with the natural world. A relationship shaped by necessity, respect, and adaptation. And despite growing tourism, Iceland has managed to retain much of its authenticity. The capital city, Reykjavik, offers colorful streets vibrant culture, and modern amenities. Yet, drive a relatively short distance beyond the city, and the landscape quickly reclaims center stage. The transition can feel almost abrupt. Civilization gives way to wilderness, and wilderness often wins. There is something humbling about that, especially in an age when humans frequently dominate their environments. Iceland reminds us that some places remain beyond complete control. Volcanoes erupt when they choose. Weather changes rapidly. Glaciers advance and retreat according to forces larger than any individual. Nature maintains the final vote. Yet perhaps the most surprising thing about Iceland is not how alien it feels, it's how connected people become to it. Many visitors arrive expecting impressive scenery. They leave talking about something harder to define, a feeling, a mood, a memory, the sensation of standing somewhere that doesn't quite resemble the rest of Earth. A place where tectonic plates separate, where glaciers meet volcanoes, where ancient sagas remain alive, where folklore coexists with science, where fire and ice share the same landscape. Maybe that's why Iceland continues to fascinate us, not because it is another planet, but because it allows us to experience our own planet in a completely different way. It reveals how strange Earth can be, how beautiful, how unpredictable, how extraordinary. And perhaps that's the real secret. Iceland doesn't feel like another world because it isn't Earth. It feels like another world because it reminds us just how incredible Earth actually is.